to the Sober Life Rocks podcast. I'm your host, Margie Scheller, and I want to welcome you today and let you know that you are not alone. You may have made the decision not to drink alcohol, or at the very least, not at work-related events. But whether you've never been a drinker, are in recovery, or made a health-related decision, we see you. In today's world, networking, socializing, celebrations, they all seem to happen over drinks, and the struggle can be real. But through this podcast, we're changing that narrative. We are here to create a community where individuals like you who choose not to drink or drink less can find camaraderie, support, and practical advice. So let's get the conversation started. I am so excited to welcome and introduce Dr. Glenn Vo. Dr. Vo is a practicing dentist, a best-selling author of multiple books, a speaker, and an industry influencer. Now, according to Glenn, the story of his life is filled with ups and downs, highs and lows, wins and losses. But what's been consistent throughout his life is the existence of turning points. These are divine moments, chance encounters, and the generosity of others that have helped him move forward in life. He is the genius and founder of Nifty Thrifty Dentists, a platform that helps dental professionals save money in their practices. From podcasts to live video streams, Nifty Thrifty became a community that allowed its members to thrive and grow. And with a Facebook group of, wait for it, over 59,000 members strong, dental professionals no longer have to feel that they practice alone. Glenn, welcome.
Margie, I am so excited to be here. Obviously, I'm such a big fan of the Sober Life Rocks movement. I think it's long overdue. And I'm just happy to be a small part of this journey that you and Laura are on, and just this movement that's really going to change not only dentistry. I truly feel this is going to change other professions as well, and hopefully just the world in general, so I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. Well, and I just love the fact that your whole ethos is about building connections and about, expanding community and making a place where people have access to things that they might not otherwise have. And so that just aligns so well with what we're doing. And I honor you for all you've done to lift others up in your journey. So speaking of journey, in that intro, you talked about ups and downs, backs and forths. One of the things that I first like to do is, people may think that they know us, right? They think that they see us on social media or meet us at some conference, but they may not know who we are. Like, what is our background? What is our origin story? What was it like for you growing up as a child? Would you be willing to share some of that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So my family is originally from Vietnam. My father was in the military, and because of his position, because he worked a lot with the US government, when the war was ending, when the country was falling or get transitioning over to the communist government, my dad had an opportunity. He had a chance, like just a random chance where the people who he worked with, they said, we have a helicopter over here. You have 30 minutes to round up anybody you want, and you're going to jump on that chopper and we're flying out of here. And literally, my dad had to basically leave everything behind, his parents behind. Of course, at that time, I wasn't around yet. Actually, my mom was pregnant with me, and rounded up the kids. My older sister, a couple of my aunts came along, and they came over. And when we came to the U.S., I was born in the U.S., so I actually barely made the cut, and I was born in the U.S. But there was like that, just chance encounter, and honestly, our lives would have been different if my dad didn't make that quick decision. And honestly, it would have definitely been different if this country that I love so much didn't open its arms and embrace us, right, as new Americans. And so when we came in to the country, my dad had a friend who also worked with the military. His name was Glenn Leon Rogers. He was really big in Catholic charities. For those who are not familiar with Catholic charities, a core mission is is helping refugees settle in this country. Like that is a
Mhm.
core like mission of Catholic Charities. Lutheran Charities is picking up is also helping now. But back then, back in the late 70s, Catholic Charities was one of the biggest drivers at helping Southeast Asian immigrants refugees settle in this country. And so my family was one of them. So Glenn Leon Rogers was really, really big in Catholic Charities. And he actually helped our family get settled, helped my parents find jobs, helped enroll my aunts into high school. And if you haven't figured out by now, I actually am named after him. My dad, out of gratitude for the help that his friend extended to us, named me Glenn Leon Poe. And one of my favorite pictures that I actually share all the time in all my presentations is a picture of me and I would say four generations of Glenn Leon. So Grandpa Rogers, who I'm named after, who I call him Grandpa Rogers. Then there's Uncle Glenn, which is his son, and Brother Glenn, which is his grandson, and then me. I represented the fourth in the line of Glenn Leons. So again, with the help of others, with the help of others, our family was able to, settle here fast forward me growing up, um, you know, immigrant, the immigrant mentality, work really hard, do what you can, the American dream is there. And I'm a testament to that. And I always tell people whenever they may say certain things about immigration and whatnot, I always tell them that, there's always going to be in every situation, there's always going to be some bad apples, right? There's always bad apples in everything, but the good outweighs the bad. And what makes this country great is a guy like me can, a guy like me can grow up with parents who, never even went to college and become a doctor and be able to be a productive member of society. You can only find that in, I mean, a few places, but when we think
Right.
about like dreams becoming true, we think about this country. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit background of my like just like childhood and whatnot. And of course, dental school, big reason why I became a dentist is because my sister was a dentist, right? And I want to share
Hmm.
the story because it's really true. Like I feel that people are in our lives for a reason. Things happen for a reason. It's up to us to see those things and act on it. But I remember I was in college and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And my sister, who is a dentist, invited me to come assist her at her practice. She said one of her assistants was on had to go on vacation and she needed my help. So I was like, okay, sure, I'll go out there and visit her and make a couple of bucks and whatnot. And I remember, like this was yesterday, I was assisting her. She was doing a filling and she stopped what she was doing. She looked me straight in my eyes and said, Glenn, do you want to be a loser for the rest of your life? And I looked at her, I'm like, my gosh, that's only a big sister can talk to her younger brother like that, right? Like so rude, right? So she said, do you want to be a loser for the rest of your life? And I remember the patient looked up at me and was waiting for me to respond. Like everyone was like out of mood. Everyone was looking at me
Were
and
you a
said,
loser at the time?
I didn't think so, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was kind of like
Yeah.
in school and didn't know what to do. But I guess in my my sister's eyes, if you don't know what you're doing, you're a loser. And I looked at her and I said, no. And she was like, there's a reason why I have you here. I feel like you
Mm.
have the potential to be a really good dentist. You are very good with people and you like to educate people and you like to help them. That's what we do in dentistry. It's not about just running this handpiece. You see what I do with my patients. And so the rest of the week, I actually watched her and I said, you know what? I'm not exactly crazy about teeth. I don't look at it like, oh my gosh, but I am crazy about the things that are attached to the teeth. That's the people. And so that's like a cliff notes of kind of like my origin story and how I got into dentistry and got an opportunity to live this dream.
Amazing, amazing. So I know you a little bit, and I have heard a little bit of your story. And the reason that I brought you on to this podcast was because you do have a story that relates to our Sober Life Rocks journey. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share that piece of it.
No, absolutely. I come from a family history of substance abuse. And, there's other people that have gone through the same journey I have. And I understand how hard it is. One thing that I've always realized is that, I am not a perfect person. The only perfect being in this world is God. And whether you believe in God or not, that's irrelevant. All you have to understand is that we all have limitations. We have our faults, we have our vices, we have all those things. And the way that we manage those things is, well, you either keep it out of your life or just minimize what goes on. And understanding that, I have, for myself personally, I do not drink, don't do any, use any mind altering substances or anything like that. That's just a personal decision of mine. But because I understand my family history to that, I'm also very sensitive to that. And again, some people may say, well, you're a different person. You can, withstand temptation and whatnot. You might be right. But for me, if I don't have to take a risk, I don't. So I personally have decided for a very long time that I don't drink alcohol. And a very close person, my brother, has an issue with substance abuse. And so, as someone, I understand how, number one, how hard it is to break certain habits. But I also know from my own side the ramifications, the consequences that happens not only to yourself but to your loved ones. One of the things that breaks my heart whenever I bring this up is I actually don't have a relationship with my brother anymore. And the reason being is because honestly, I've had my heart broken so many times. My emotional state, I don't think I could handle that again. Do I still pray for him? Do I still hope that he will get better? Absolutely. But I just don't have the strength after years and years and years. And when I say about that, I mean, again, whenever you're dealing with someone who does have a substance abuse issue, um, a lot of times they will tell you exactly what you want to hear, especially people who are close to you, especially someone who grew up with you, you know?
I may have
And
done that from
so,
time to time during my addiction with my parents. I may have told them exactly what they wanted to hear.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so, of course, again, what I represent is, it's one thing for someone to have that issue. What I represent is the collateral damage, right?
Yeah.
So not only myself, but the rest of my siblings, we don't have much of a relationship with him, and it breaks our heart. But again, it's for myself emotionally, I just couldn't handle it anymore. I
Yeah.
couldn't handle having my heart broken over and over and over again, and then just getting my hopes up, like, okay, he says this is the last time. I'm so excited. Let me just do
Mhm.
everything I can, only for my hopes to get dashed again. And so that is something that has been a really hurtful part of my life. But um I've been able to help others who have been in the same situation. And a lot of
Yeah.
times it's honestly, I felt alone. I felt like I was the only person to have to deal with this, who had a family member that had a substance abuse issue. And it that's why I'm so supportive of this movement, because I want to be there for other people who are facing those things, but it's also nice to know that there's other people out there as well. And I think it's one of those things that so many people internal, I did for so many years. I just didn't want to bring it up. I was kind of embarrassed. I didn't want to bring it up. And I just have to internalize it. And honestly, for years, even from my own wife, it wasn't until years after we got married and she was like, your brother, he showed up to our wedding. He had a really good time at our wedding, and we haven't seen him since. And that's when I had to tell her that was like one of the hardest things as well. But when other people are going through the same thing and you have that support system, um, it makes things so much better. And again, that's why I'm so excited to not only be a member of this community, but also just being able to help others that are in the same situation.
Yeah, there's so much shame. There's so much shame in being the person who is struggling and in the family members who just are baffled and don't understand why this amazing person that they love can't see what they see in them. So I want to talk a little bit with you about this decision that you made not to drink. Did you ever drink at all, or?
Yes, I did actually. Yes, I did, and the reason why I could say that, could I fall victim into substance abuse as well? Absolutely. I mean, when I was in college, I didn't have an occasional drink. I had occasional drinks, plural.
Yeah,
And again, just that season of my life, I mean, that's what was around. Sometimes it's
yeah.
easier to find a beer than a bottle of water, right? Depending on where you're at. And so, again, and also just when you're in dental school, same thing. And even as a dentist, and as I saw what was going on with my brother, and although I felt like I could manage those things, I literally, the change for me was one day I just woke up and I just said, I don't think I need alcohol in my life anymore. And literally, once I made that decision, and I was married at the time, and I remember telling my wife, I'm not drinking anymore. And then she looks at me, she's like, well, who do I have to drink with? I guess I'm going to stop too. So we actually both don't drink. Ironically enough, I do have a very impressive liquor cabinet at home. The reason why it's impressive is because people still send me like really great bottles of drinks, and I don't drink it. It's just in the cabinet. Really, literally, it is for guests, and some of my guests do partake. And I tell them, please drink as much as you can. Let's be safe though, because you got to drive out of here. But because I don't drink it, so I have actually a pretty impressive collection. It's there
There's
because I
always
don't drink.
there's always regifting. I do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah,
So I love what you said about when you were in college, it's often easier to find a beer than water. So you made this decision, and I don't know how much at the time you were traveling to conferences. I know you do now. And really, one of the things that we in Sober Life Rocks really struggle with is how can we help support each other at these events where the currency of connection is alcohol.
yeah.
It's let's meet at the bar, let's meet for happy hour, let's go to this after party, let's go to this networking event. So tell me what that is like for you, and what are some of the things that people may have said to you over time?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. I was actually at an event over this weekend, and we were celebrating just a milestone of one of the people that were sitting at our table. And so, bottle of champagne comes out. Everyone gets a champagne glass, and everyone wanted to raise a toast and congratulations to this one person. Well, I don't drink, so I didn't take the champagne glass, and I was in a kind of awkward situation where I was holding my water glass, which is, champagne glass is really slender, and I have this big old cup here, and I'm doing a toast, right? And I just like stood out in like a sore thumb. And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, man, it would have been nice if someone got me some cider or something and gave me that cup, or even just give me that cup and put water in it. Like,
Yeah.
but I stood out like a sore thumb. And I was just thinking to myself, wow, that's for some people that would be hard. And honestly, for some people, they would just say, you know what, let me just take like one sip of
Mhm.
champagne. It's not big. I'm doing this toast. I don't want to be left out. But I think the biggest thing there is, number one, for some people, that's a dangerous proposition, right? They're trying
Yeah.
to be mindful of things, but also that's something inside people too, like a promise they're keeping for themselves, right? Like that's almost as significant as someone not wanting to drink alcohol or drinking that, like just breaking that promise as well. And so, again, like there's so many little things that we can do that can make things so much more comfortable. But that was like a situation where it was kind of awkward for me. And have I had to not, join people at the bar to discuss business and whatnot because everyone's drinking and maybe they're like, well, why is this guy not drinking? What's he trying to
Mhm.
do here? Is he trying to pull one over on me while I'm trying to drink and whatnot? And so that's kind of prevented me from being in those situations. But I am glad though that more and more bars are do have a mocktail list. Like I was actually pleasantly surprised when last times I've been to a few restaurants, I saw there was a list of mocktails. I was like, I'll have one of those. And I
Mhm.
think as we, normalize that, like, hey, you're gonna do a champagne a toast, let's have some cider, let's have something for the other people. I think that's gonna make things so much better for everyone because we always want to include everyone, right? But we want to
Yeah,
include people who are generally trying to live
right.
a better lifestyle for themselves.
For whatever reason. I mean, there's people who are members who don't do it for religious reasons. There's people
Yeah.
who don't do it for like health reasons. They have serious health conditions. People like yourself who have family members. Like there's all the reasons. It's not just people who are addicted, but all of us have that exact same moment, that exact same champagne toast. I mean, I walked into a conference where they were having a party, and you walked into the door and they had servers there handing glasses of champagne.
Yeah.
So those of us who don't drink were like, okay, guess
You're
we don't
just
have any
standing around
option.
fiddling your
We
thumbs,
didn't
you
we
know?
didn't even have a water glass to do anything with. I mean, yeah, it was awkward. Um, so I would love to know then, let's say that you are hosting a dinner. How do you navigate that? And are there things that you do now to be inclusive of those at your table who you may not know don't drink?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I definitely make sure that there's other options out there, right? That we have these alcoholic beverages. We also have mocktails as well. And again, if I was doing a celebration, if I was celebrating you, right? Like, and again, we definitely need to do something like that because what you're doing is so amazing. I would make sure that there would be an alternative, a non-alcoholic alternative. It could be cider, right? It could be cider. It could be something as simple as like just some club soda, right? That would give you the opportunity to join in and to participate. And I think that the point of a toast, what makes a toast powerful is that the everyone at the table joins and
Yeah,
collectively celebrates a moment. When you're toasting with a big glass of water, it kind of like takes away from that moment. So again, that's something that I would do personally. But to be honest, I think that a movement like this, it takes every person to adopt some of these principles, right? And the more people adopt, the more they see it, the more it becomes, hey, this is actually a normal thing to do. And our the great thing about our country is that it's constantly evolving. Some people don't like it. Some people are like, I kind of like how things were back then. Well, if you think about it, if you go back another generation and think about how things were way back then, you would be appalled. Like that would I could never live in a society like that. And so for us, I feel like as long as we're always moving, being progressive, but being progressive in a way that protects, but also includes other people, other good people. I think that's a good thing. And again, something like this, where you can include people who wish not to, drink alcohol for whatever reason it is, but still
yeah,
include them, making them feel that they're part of the community. I think that's a good thing. That's a good
yeah.
thing.
I know one of our members, she does drink, but not at professional events. And so when she's at a dinner, whether she's hosting or not, and somebody says, I'm here to get cocktails, she herself is the one that speaks up and says, hey, what do you have that's non-alcoholic that we all need to know about? So that she's not putting me in the position as the sober one to have to ask that question, but she's being proactive as somebody who drinks to ask that question. I loved that idea.
I mean, that's great. I mean, I'm definitely going to be taking that idea as well because, again, I think if as someone who is hosting the event, the dinner, and whatnot, when they set the tone, then I think it gives people, they make them feel safe. I wouldn't say gives them permission. I would say it's more of like makes them feel safe to say, hey, I think I'll have a
Yeah.
mocktail as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that was my experience at another dinner. There was two of us at this group of 10 people who are in Sober Life Rocks, and the people knew about that. And another gal does drink, and she's like, I'm just going to try a mocktail for tonight. And she called me the next morning, and she's like, that was so fun. I had no idea that I could have so much fun not drinking at a dinner, and I feel great this morning. I'm like, uh-huh.
What a great friend to support you in that way. And again,
Yeah.
I think that as we I hate to use the term normalize,
No, that's
because a lot of
exactly what it
times
is.
a lot of times people like to use that in a negative connotation. And what I'm saying is not so much normalize, because I think it's normal. I think it's normal already, right? For those who would want a mocktail or not drink alcohol. I think it's just good to remind people that, hey, that this is okay. And that, again, the more that people take the reins, like yourself and Laura and all the other people in the community, when they say, hey, I'm going to have a mocktail, or ask those questions, I think it makes people more safe. And I think at
Right.
the end of the day, if we can get more people feeling safe about this, um, it's going to help the industry, not only our industry, but I mean, I'm just so excited to see this move into other professional industries and ultimately just
Mm-hmm.
mainstream. I'm so excited for that.
Absolutely. In fact, that's what we've done over this summer is really opened up the definition of sober life rocks to not just be focused in dentistry, but we recognize that professionals in all different careers face
Yeah.
some of the similar challenges. And one of the challenges that people uniquely, I think, in recovery face is that when we go to whatever recovery groups we go to, whether it's AA or something that you've done through a diversion program or some other thing, many times the people in those communities may not be in the career trajectory that you're in.
Right.
And so the challenge is, where can you go as a sober person in recovery and talk about the unique challenges of being a professional, of the travel, of the conferences, of the happy hours, of the like meeting over drinks. And where can you go to talk about the like amazing successes that you have in your life as a result of being sober?
Mhm.
I'm now running 3 businesses, and the person next to me in one of those recovery communities may be just struggling to make ends meet. And so I don't necessarily feel comfortable sort of sharing these things in that sort of setting because I don't want to seem like I'm bragging or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so that's one of the things about Sober Life Rocks as well, is that we're really trying to not only help people with how to navigate it, but also like celebrate the fact that when we don't drink, we can do amazing things. We can live into our full potential.
Mhm.
We can dream and execute in a way that maybe we couldn't in our drinking days. And that kind of brings it back to full circle with your brother. It's like you see the potential in
Yeah.
him, and we see the potential in friends and family that we have that we see struggling with some place on that scale, on that spectrum of alcohol use disorder. And we see what they could do if they could just remove that obstacle. Yep. So I have one final question for you. If you know somebody who is struggling with alcohol, how do you currently handle that? Like in a professional setting, if you see somebody time after time after time at different conferences, and every time you see them getting out of control,
Yeah.
what do you
Yeah.
do now?
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I've been in those situations before. I've been in those situations where, multiple of those situations, but I'll share a story that actually something significant happened. You know, there's a good friend of mine, and we were actually at an event, and he was literally hammered. I mean, he was just gone. Okay. And I was having a business meeting, and he came over and he started talking to the other person there. I could tell he was drinking. I said, hey, I'll catch up with you later. Like, I was doing everything I could so that he could just go back to his room. But he just stood there, and he ended up insulting and causing this individual, this young entrepreneur, to cry, to literally cry. in front of
Mm.
us and left. And I just told my friend, I said, "Hey, look," and he thought it was funny. And I said, "Hey, that was totally uncalled for. Um, you definitely need to take the rest of the night off." And I literally just escorted him to his room, got him into his room, and just left him in there. Next morning he comes out. We have breakfast. I brought it up to him. I said, "Hey, what you did yesterday was unacceptable. Unacceptable, unprofessional. That's not who you are. And this person now is going to judge you based on that one interaction rather than your whole body of work."
Yeah.
And I was very upfront with him. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I was very direct, and I told him how I felt, and I told him how that would hurt things. And from that point on, we've had multiple conversations about that because, again, a good friend, a true friend, will tell you the truth, even if it's not something you want to hear. That's a true friend, and a true friend wants the best for you, whether it's not fun or not. I mean, that's what a true friend does. And I brought that up, and I said that that's always going to be a barrier for you in growing your business. Is each time you have a good time, you gotta wonder what happens when you're intoxicated and saying all sorts of stuff. Ultimately, what happened is he actually started drinking less, but definitely less at social and professional events. And he ended up apologizing to that young entrepreneur, which to me was like the best part that could have happened. Because at the end of the day, no one deserves, especially someone who's just starting out their career, deserves to be disrespected in any way, much less from someone who's intoxicated and showing a lack of respect there. And so that's a situation that's been in. That's probably the most dramatic situation, thankfully. But this was at a dental event. This was at a professional setting. And the thing is that the thing that, the story should tell everyone is that I'm sure that you have been there before where someone had one too many drinks. And maybe you just kind of saw it and just like, "Oh, okay, I'm glad it's not me." Or, "Wow, they're making a fool of themselves. I'm glad it's not me." And I think the danger with the philosophy of "I'm glad it's not me," it ends up hurting that other person. So whether if it's a person that you care about and you let them carry themselves in that way, you have to ask yourself, like, are you being a good friend there? Because a good friend would make sure their friend wouldn't make a fool of themselves, but also possibly get hurt. Again, yes, verbally he hurt another person, but it could have been a lot worse, right? There could have been a physical altercation. They could have done something to hurt themselves. And so, the one takeaway from my story for anyone who's listening right now is if you're truly a good friend, if you truly care about someone, then you'll do your best to make sure that your friend is not in that situation. And that's how I feel whenever I'm at these events and I see someone getting one too many drinks. If it's a friend of mine or someone I care about, I try to wrangle them in the best I can.
I love that. I love that. And you're right. A true friend holds up a mirror, says, "I love you, and this is what I'm seeing." I love that. Glenn, I would love to have you just share a little bit before we end about the Nifty Thrifty community, what that is, and how people can benefit and be part of it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Nifty Thrifty Dentist community honestly has started off because I actually had another Facebook group, and it was to sell like used dental equipment and stuff like that. I have a real problem, guys. Whenever I see a good deal, I have to get it. And so I literally had a storage room full of dental equipment. My wife's like, "You have a real problem. You got to get this stuff out of storage. We have other things we got to put in there. We have the kids stuff we got to put in there." But anyways, what happened was that people started talking in that buy sell group. They're like asking for deals and discounts and how to grow their practice. And that's how Nifty Thrifty got created, right? And so for a group that started as finding good deals and discounts really turned into a community that could actually help you level up. So when people ask about Nifty Thrifty, yeah, the name might say something, but really it's a community for people like us and people like you, Margie, to come in and share what's important about you, to lift up and uplift others. And so, if you are on Facebook, just type in Nifty Thrifty Dentist. It says dentist, but it's open to all dental professionals. Love for you to be a part of it, and love for you to share your story and share your thoughts. And again, I don't have all the answers, but I have so many friends that do, and I'm so lucky that they're in the group. Are you being one of them? And so, for those who are listening and want to just continue the community aspect, I'd love for you to be a part of the community.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I will make sure that I put a link to not only that, but also your books and whatever else that you want to in the show notes. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable, being so authentic, and really offering a message of hope to people for both choices that we can make and ways that we can interact in our communities. Thank you for being part of this. And thank you
Thank
for
you
being
for
part of
having
Sober
me.
Life Rocks. You bet.